2 London derbies, 1 point, 2 decent performances, 1 atrocious VAR decision, robbery, scandal of the highest order, which meant that West Ham were defeated at Stamford Bridge. But 1 point from those 2 games, I think, is probably 1 point more than me, Will Pugh, thought West Ham were going to get out of that home game against Tottenham and the visit to Stamford Bridge on Saturday. I'm joined by my friend James Jones to speak about both of those games. Jonesy, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be quite honest. The start to this podcast so far, what people don't realise at home, it took me about 15 attempts to read out the advertising read. I'm stumbling over the introduction. I thought I was quite good at this. We've been doing it for years now. I'm losing the plot. VAR's losing the plot. Fortunately, West Ham have remembered how to play football again. I think it may just be for the best if you just do the talking this week, because I don't know what's going on.
Well, to be fair, mate, I'm quite surprised given, I mean, you've only been on drinking alcohol when we met up yesterday for a few drinks in King's Cross. Exactly. And I feel, fresh to daisy today, and you're talking as if you're recovering from a stinking hangover.
No, tell me about it.
I don't understand it. You're on the non-alcoholics all afternoon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, turned over a new leaf. Trying to have a little bit of a healthy time, both physically and mentally. So I thought I'd have a bit of a period off the booze. And yeah, it just turns out that perhaps it was the booze that was holding me together all along.
Maybe it was, yeah.
Yeah. And a life without beer is perhaps that's exactly what it was. That was making my brain tick over, making me able to speak so succinctly on the We Are West Ham podcast. Or perhaps, Jonesy, it's actually the fact that my brain still cannot compute how Jared Bowen skipping over a goalkeeper in the contact sport that is football and having the audacity to brush the top of his football boot against said goalkeeper's shoulder before Maxwell Cornet slams in a well-deserved equaliser for West Ham at Stamford Bridge. Maybe my brain just hasn't been able to compute that properly yet. Therefore, speaking English, which I have actually done for approximately 28 and a half years, without too many problems, I might add, is becoming too much of an issue for me right now.
I mean, yeah, if we're going to talk about that, then I mean, I don't think I'll ever get over that. I'm surprised I'm still able to stand. I'm still that gobsmacked at what happened at the weekend. Not just in West Ham's game as well, like just everywhere.
Yeah.
Like even in the Arsenal United game that we're watching, and that Martinelli ruled out goal, which you see those, you do see those fouls given, but they've gone all the way back and then taken 3 days to check it.
When Paul Tierney was the on-field ref, was 10 yards away, staring right at it.
Yeah. And then they
clear and obvious error, was it?
Yeah. I mean, just the whole thing's just a complete mess, isn't it? Like, just a complete shambles. And anyone that isn't a football fan looks at football, right, and can see how much. There's always been able to see how much of a dysfunctional sport it is, right? Even football fans know how much of a dysfunctional sport it is, and then they go, right,
hate football, don't they?
Yeah, definitely despise the bloody thing. I just can't stand it.
Yeah.
And then they bring in VAR to get rid of all of that.
Yeah, that was the point.
It's all right. We're going to fix everything. Don't worry. We won't be a laughing stock for much longer. We're going to try and compete with the likes of rugby when it comes to competency, and just let the players play football, and let's just get rid of all the controversy and actually just play by the rules for once. And instead, they've made it even worse, which is quite impressive given the state that football's been in for decades.
It's funny, isn't it, Jonesy? Because I find I was so pro VAR at the beginning. Genuinely was.
Me too.
Because I was so fed up of offsides mainly. I remember that Liverpool goal. You'll remember it at London Stadium. Someone down the right-hand side was a solid 3 yards offside in the build-up to a goal, and it stands. And I was just so bored of that because then you have to listen to the pundits afterwards sort of analysing the game as if it was Liverpool are really good. And you just think it sort of undermines the whole point of the rest of the game. If the rules aren't followed correctly, the rules are what make any sport or any game anyway. Without the rules, it's just nothing. They're like, that's literally what makes it. You have to achieve within that set of rules. So when they're not administered properly, I just think, well, what's the point? Like, what's the point of playing, or what's the point of celebrating the result or any other good play if you're then just going to go, oh yeah, a bit of a fortunate decision from the lino? It's like, no, he was 5 yards offside. That's not an unfortunate decision. It's a huge mistake which alters the course of the game. And so I was so pro it. I thought, yeah, because offsides are black and white, and there's some, big handballs that I understand it's not always easy for officials to see. It's like, yeah, this is great. There's going to be no more glaring errors in the game anymore. And fairness will reign, and that'll be good. And because I used to feel so robbed by goals like that Liverpool thing, and I just think, and it would make me hate football. I think, what's the point? And then, but when it happens in that fashion, you're just like, oh well, there's no hope then. Like, the officials are just crap, or the rules are rubbish. I want to be a bit careful, and we'll get into it a bit more in the Chelsea section, but sometimes it is the rules. Sometimes the referees make the correct decision, and it's the rules that are rubbish. They abide by the rules, and they make a decision based on the laws of the game. And everyone goes, oh, what the hell? How's that a foul? And you go, no, you're right. It shouldn't be a foul, but the law needs to change. The ref has made the right decision, but the law needs to change. Sometimes that happens. I've got the rules here. I've gone a bit anal with this week, Jonesy. I've gone on the FA website. I've got the rules out. I've got the exact word in here in front of me. And I can tell you categorically that Andy Madley's a coward for not sticking to his original decision. Yeah. And Jared Gillett, the VAR, I thought, just go. Just go. Just go. Be gone. Be gone. Be gone from football. Be gone from our sport. I don't like nothing extreme. Go and live a happy, fulfilled life. By all means, I really hope that happens. Be healthy, and hope good things happen to you elsewhere. But be gone from football.
Just quickly on Jared Gillett, what surprised me most about the fact that he was the VAR was that he's the Australian that came over.
Some people said it's harmless, but like a Gillett,
like it. Nice. Yeah. Some say it's not. Some say it's not as funny if you've got to explain it straight after. But I got it.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? When you're just saying it to you, I couldn't hear the listeners laughing. So
yeah, we should get some canned laughter, and so every time,
that's true. Actually,
just click the button, and
just so people know when I'm making a joke. That was a joke, everyone. By the way, just so you know, you're supposed to laugh there at this point of the podcast. Yeah, go on.
Jared Gillett, he's come over from Australia. He was widely regarded as the best referee in Australia. And there's that clip where they mic'd him up for a game, and
but that's like saying you're the best igloo builder in Jamaica.
Well, they mic'd him up for a game in Australia. I think it was his last ever game, and you could hear him make all the decisions, and him talking to the players, and his reason behind making certain decisions, and speaking to his linesman over his mic and stuff. And he just thought, actually hearing a referee speak during the game and justify his decisions to players and everyone else. So it might be quite good. Like not that we're getting that, but he sounds like he's a pretty reasonable bloke as referees go. So he's come over
the Melbourne Victory fans, but on.
And then he does a few football league seasons, and then gets his crack in the Premier League, and that's what surprised me most, is because there was a big. He's the first non-UK official to be allowed to officiate in the UK in the Football League and the Premier League.
Trying to dance around bigotry very carefully.
Yeah. and everyone, there was articles written about him. This guy's so impressive. He's smashed it in Australia. He's really, really good. Really, really good referee, really good official. And it's just like, brilliant. And then you find out he's the VAR that's contributed to literally the worst VAR decision in the history of VAR. Which is impressive, given there's a long list.
It's an impressive back catalogue, yeah.
And it's just like, oh mate, you've let yourself down there. Come on, you had this reputation.
You've let your family down. You let your friends down.
You've let Australia
down. You've let West Ham down. You've let football down.
The whole of Australia is absolutely just disappointed in your actions.
Yeah. If there's any aliens watching, you've let planet Earth down. Quite frankly,
you're a letdown, mate. You're completely let down, right? And you need to go and sit in the corner and think about what you've done.
For a very long time.
for a long time. But yeah, that's what surprised me most, is that this guy had a bit of a reputation of being a very good and very reasonable referee. Turns out that is not the truth.
Incorrect.
Judging by the week.
Right, we'll do that in a bit more detail, James, in the Chelsea section. West Ham. Well, you can only start one place, James. It is VAR. You talk. We've all seen it. Obviously, West Ham did well to get in the lead, I think deservedly. 2 good goals from Chelsea. You can't really deny that. Great finish from Ben Chilwell. Kai Havertz was a good finish as well. You'd perhaps hope Fabianski does a little bit better for Chilwell's, but also that could easily just hit him on the shin and go out for a corner, or he could easily save that. So a bit unlucky. We go behind, and then the game-defining moment comes towards the end. A loose header back by Reece James. Edouard Mendy parries it out for some reason because he's too much of a bottle job to just collect it with his hands. As Jared Bowen is advancing towards him, parries it out. Cornet picks up the ball, rifles it into the top corner or the roof of the net. Jubilant scenes in the away end. Looks like West Ham have rescued a point just shortly after Chelsea had made it 2-1. Jared Gillett sends Andy Madley over to the screen to have a look. 98% of the time, we know that means goal overturned, or decision, overturned. Mark Halsey, former Premier League ref, has said to this podcast and for his column in The Sun that the Premier League on-field referees are told to stick with the VAR's decision. So every time they're sent over, they're told to stick with what the VAR is telling them or advising them, which for me is a waste of time. If we're going to do that, why don't the VAR just make the decision? Michael Oliver at the weekend, Bournemouth v Nottingham Forest, did actually stick with his own on-field decision, which is good to see. But I think that may be the first time that's happened this season. So that's what happened. James, I don't know if you want to give me you tell me, I'll be led by you here. Do you want to give me your thoughts on the situation first? I know I've gone into it in the intro. Or would you like me to tell you the exact wording in the rules of football for what a foul is?
You go with that, because I've got a statement from the West Ham United Supporters Trust. They've released a statement today to kind of ask for a number of things in response to PGMOL publicly acknowledging that it was a mistake and the decision was wrong. Not just that one, but the one at Newcastle as well. Yeah. And I think the exact wording of their statement was that they will take learnings from it, which literally,
just like in the last one, probably, and the one before that,
literally no accountability, right, for those making those mistakes, which are massive mistakes in today's game in the Premier League, right? Massive mistakes that could cost clubs a lot of money, and just ruins it for the fans.
It does. So
yeah, I'll read that out. Fine. But you go into the laws of football, because it seems like hopefully the referees are listening, and we can give them their learnings that they're looking for. So let's go for it.
To be fair though, Jared Gillett won't be listening because we've already told him to be gone from football. True. But so switched off.
We do have a large group of supporters from Australia, so maybe
that's true. Actually, that's a point. We won't after this week because of your anti-Australia sentiments.
It wasn't anti-Australia.
Effectively,
it was anti-Gillett.
It was anti-Gillett. Suggesting that there was an implicit suggestion there that how can someone from Australia be good at football? So look, I just want to make it clear now to all the Aussie listeners we have got, and there are loads of them. That's very much a James Jones thought process, and I personally love Australia and all of its people, unlike James Jones.
So do I. Very grateful for listening. Yeah, just not Jared Gillett.
Okay. Right. So note number 1, I actually wrote Chelsea v West Ham for the pre-podcast notes. I'm sure it's news to lots of you that I actually make notes before these things rather than just rock up. Word number 1, I just wrote fallacy. But then after that, to be a foul, a challenge must be careless, reckless, or using excessive force. If a challenge is considered reckless or using excessive force, a card must be issued. Jared Bowen wasn't given a card for that. Therefore, that means Jared Gillett and Andy Madley must have thought the foul was careless, right? The definition of careless within the rules, to be careless, a challenge must be Sorry, a challenge must be careless because. Sorry, mate. To be careless, a challenge must lack attention or consideration when making a challenge, or the player acts without precaution. Now, what I don't know. What is Jared? But do you know what I mean? Lack of attention or consideration when making a challenge, or the player acts without precaution. Where is his what's to be considered? Where's his lack of attention or consideration? It wasn't even a challenge. So, and where's he act without precaution? With what's he done?
The precaution he's made, he's jumping over him.
The opponent, or like football is a contact sport still. That is that football is a contact sport.
Well, so we're led to believe.
His feet. If Jared Bowen had tripped over there, nothing would have been given. I don't understand, because you must the referees must have it wasn't a long passage, right? The foul bit. If you just look the rules of fouls, or what's a foul, Google that in football rules. Law 12 it is. If they must have the book open, well, they must know it. They must have to do a test or two to be in that position in the first place. So they must know this stuff off by heart anyway. Have a copy of the book there if you're not sure, lads. You need to check back, because even with subjectivity, right, which Mark Halsey I speak to quite a lot, he uses that word a lot, subjectivity. Even with that, you cannot tell me, no one can tell me, and we saw this by the reaction of fans of other clubs who weren't involved in the game. No one can tell me that decision and that incident being given as a foul against West Ham, and that goal gets chalked off. No one can tell me that football is a better game for that not being a goal if that happens. No one can tell me it's better for the fans. No one can tell me it's better for the players, the managers, or even the officials. They must not want that. When it's subjective like that, even though the fact Jared Gillett was wrong to pull the referee to recommend a review to the ref because it wasn't a clear and obvious error, he's looking at that. That's not a clear and nothing about that is clear and obvious. Jared Gillett maybe just has had a slightly different opinion on a subjective matter. Bafflingly, how the hell he can be one of only 10 people in the country who don't support Chelsea who would happily argue that was a foul is completely beyond me anyway. So he's already wrong to call him over. Andy Madley, just clearly, because of, and understandably, if they're being told you must stick with what the VAR is telling you, which most of them do, don't they? Like, obviously, before Michael Oliver, you got to remember, Michael Oliver is the most senior, or probably the most respected referee, the British Premier League referee, right? So he probably feels far more empowered than any of the others do to go against guidance, what he's being told by the PGMO and by his bosses. So he feels empowered to do that. Andy Madley and most of the others don't. They just get told to go over, they jog over, they go through the circus of looking at it again, and they blow the whistle and overturn the decision, whatever happens. But ultimately, in a situation like that, whether you're Jared Gillett or whether you're Andy Madley, or whether you're the IFAB who make the rules in the first place, and I don't necessarily think in this situation, I've just read out the rules, that the rules are particularly at fault here. I think it's the administering of them that's the problem, and Jared Gillett being the main one. You cannot tell me, James, that football is better for that.
Well, it's not.
It's worse by a million miles.
Well, exactly. But the problem here is that, and we've been talking about this for years, and we all thought this would be the end of it when VAR come in, is that, you know, VAR was to come in to ensure that referees no longer made mistakes. Right? They've got all the help they can get now. They've got 3 blokes sitting in a room watching the game for them, getting replays, watching, you know. That's what it was there for. And instead it's been brought in to help them make the wrong decisions as well as the right ones. So quite clearly, it's definitely worse for the game of football as it currently stands in the current situation that we're in. But what the biggest issue, and it comes up every year, is that there literally still is no accountability. We get no explanation as to why or what led to them
But I don't think
reaching that decision. Well, I just want to know what was going through their minds.
Oh, right, I see. Yeah.
You know,
What is right? Okay, it's all very apologising, but tell me what Jared Gillett thought then. Yeah, I understand. Yeah,
yeah. Like, so what going? Oh, yeah, we realise that was a mistake, and we'll learn from it. Well, why did you make that mistake? What was going through Gillett and Madney's mind when Gillett went? You want to have a look at that? I think that might be a foul, and it probably is a foul. So you probably ruled out the goal. Madley goes to the pitch side monitor, sees it, and he agrees with him essentially by going, "Oh yeah, that definitely was a foul. Yeah, yeah." I just want to know what's going through. The rest of the world have gone, "What are you doing?
You're joking." Yeah, yeah.
Like,
even Chelsea fans are going, "Oh, I hope it gets disallowed," but
yeah, I mean, we'd be lucky. We'd be very lucky. And then
that's not a foul.
You've got Tottenham fans, you've got Millwall fans, you've got fans of clubs that despise West Ham United, going, "West Ham been robbed there. That's a disgrace." Like, that's when you know you've made an absolute balls up with this decision. Yeah. And just to get a statement going, "Yeah, we acknowledge that we've made a mistake and we'll learn from it," it's just not good enough for me. Like, I'm not expecting them to give us the goal and retrospectively add the goal back on and give us a point.
All the points. Yeah.
Obviously, it's not going to happen. And I wasn't expecting that. But you just expect a little bit better. Like, these people are single-handedly bringing the game into disrepute in my book. Like it's ridiculous. People are looking at this sport going, "What an absolute circus this is!" Like every other sport that has technology in it, cricket, rugby, tennis, right? You get none of this. It works. It works.
Yeah.
Flawlessly. Yeah. It works flawlessly.
Yeah.
And football go, "Oh, we'll go down that same route and we'll get rid of it all." And then suddenly it's a worse sport as a result of the technology that they brought in. It's baffling. The whole thing's just baffling.
I think there's different ways of looking at it, right? Because you have to separate the two. VAR coming in is one thing, but to still make poor decisions with it is just more inexcusable. Do you know what I mean? Like that. So the Martin Odegaard one, right, at Man United, well soft that. And again, that's one I think if you're sitting there watching that, if you think football's better for that being a foul, like Arsenal and Man United fans' views on this aren't really like accepted here. But if you support anyone else, if you're a Southampton fan, say, and you haven't got skin in the game and you don't really care who wins out of Man U or Arsenal, if you're watching that, you can't tell me that it's more entertaining and that football's better and that Premier League football is better with that goal being ruled out. Because it's a dodgy touch from Eriksen, first of all. Like, Odegaard's come in.
Yeah.
There's a slight shoving action. But ultimately, if the decisions weren't so soft, as in if the players didn't know that the threshold for a foul is so low, Eriksen wouldn't have gone down as easily there. But players know that most of the time when they go down, something gets given, which encourages them to go down more. I think Eriksen could easily have battled for that ball and stayed on his feet. And you might have had a little tussle in the middle between Eriksen and Odegaard. And, you know, the sort of bigger, more powerful man or someone who gets a little touch in first comes out on top. And there's a bit more fight and desire. But you don't have that, do you? And I understand why Eriksen went down, because he felt a little tiny touch. He goes down. Everyone moans at the ref afterwards. They go and have a look. The slightest bit of contact's occurred, and Eriksen's gone down. And that means a foul's given. Players know that. So it's up to the officials, and people moaning about Edouard Mendy rolling around, and I don't care about that. He knows he can do it and he knows it'll work. It's up to the officials and the rule makers to stop that stuff working, and then players will stop doing it. But players are going to try and get an advantage for their team, and I've got no problem with that.
This is the argument. I'll just say this before I read out the statement from the West Ham United Supporters Trust, but I've seen a lot of fans on social media. I had a couple of tweets that went semi-viral in my angry tweeting just after the incident, and I had a lot of Chelsea fans in my mentions. And one apart from the one that went, oh, he could have really seriously injured Mendy with that challenge. So, all right, okay, mate. But the other one,
stuff shouldn't annoy me, but that really got my back up then. Even though I know it's just some troll teenager thinking he's being funny. That has actually annoyed me, yeah.
But the other one that really got me was someone going, oh, Bowen left his leg in there because he was trying to win a penalty.
Yeah.
But I don't buy that, because if Bowen's leaving his leg in there to try and win a penalty, then why on earth is he staying on his feet? Like, if you watch it again, he doesn't go over. If Bowen's deliberately leaving his leg in there, he's leaving his leg in there for one purpose, and that is to try and win a penalty. And if that is the case, then why has he stayed on his feet after the collision, turned around to see who gets the ball? So therefore, he's not left his leg in there deliberately. It's an attempt to jump over Mendy, and he clearly hasn't jumped high enough. And, you can't really blame him for that, given how quick the game's moving. And his back legs caught Mendy's arm hairs, and Mendy's rolled around like he's amputated his arm. And so there's literally no argument on that side that Bowen deliberately left his leg in, because there's just actually no reason for him to do that unless he's trying to win a penalty. But he wasn't, because he didn't go over. So, yeah, I think we've established the fact that it wasn't a foul, haven't we?
Yeah, probably, mate. Yeah.
let me read this statement, because there has been a reaction. And this is from the West Ham United Supporters Trust, in conjunction with the Newcastle United Supporters Trust, who obviously are feeling just as aggrieved with the decision that went against them against Palace at St James's Park. And they've basically called for. They've listed a few things that they want to happen as a result of this. So, West Ham United Supporters Trust notes the acknowledgement from PGMOL that the VAR decisions on Saturday, 3rd September, involving West Ham United was incorrect. Acknowledgement alone is not enough. The consequence of this negligence was that West Ham did not receive the points we should have gained through our performance on the pitch. This could prove to be detrimental in league position or financial earnings at the end of the season. VAR was introduced to reduce controversy. It is failing. VAR was introduced to correct clear and obvious errors. It is failing. VAR's rationale was minimum interference, maximum benefit. It is failing. Sporting results are increasingly at the mercy of unseen, unaccountable figures where lack of transparency is a concern. The decisions made by those operating VAR severely affect clubs and supporters and the integrity of our game. So we demand the referees and VAR officials involved in incorrect decisions to publicly apologise for their actions. Those officials to receive season bans from officiating the Premier League and detailed retraining. For the referees and VAR officials to give public justification for any incident deemed to be clear and obvious error. For the league and PGMOL to meet with supporters as soon as possible to discuss the future use of VAR. And the relevant authorities to speak to their counterparts in cricket and rugby, both league and union, who use technology to improve the game. They have been effective in using technology in doing so. These shocking decisions must not happen again. Suspend VAR now.
Right, sorry, can you just do us a favour, mate? And I don't know if you want to edit it out, but I was just sort of trying to make some notes as you were going. Just what are the demands again? Can you just
the demands are the referees and VAR officials involved in incorrect decisions to publicly apologise for their actions.
Right.
Those officials to receive season bans from officiating the Premier League and detailed retraining.
Right.
For the referees and VAR officials to give public justification for any incident deemed to be clear and obvious error. For the league and PGMOL to meet with supporters as soon as possible to discuss the future of use of VAR. And the relevant authorities to speak to their counterparts in cricket and rugby, use technology to improve the game, as they have been effective in using technology.
Right, okay. Let me just go through these then quickly. First of all, talk to cricket and rugby. I would be astounded if that hasn't happened already.
Oh, they must have done.
I don't think that's a thing. I don't know that for certain. I could check that actually, but I will check that. But I'll be astounded if those conversations haven't happened. It's just unfeasible for that not to have happened. Public apology. I completely disagree. I don't think they get the decisions right. I don't think it helps. It doesn't help at all. Well, I mean, it doesn't help me.
An apology doesn't improve the situation, really.
No, it doesn't get the points back.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Like, go away. I don't care. Just that's not what you're here for. And you've got video cameras. to be able to go back on the original decisions again. It would sort of be okay when it was old pre-VAR days, when it was just refs making decisions. An apology then and an explanation may be okay. You've got video cameras now. You saw that. You've watched that back in slow motion, what Jared Bowen did, and you've decided that's a foul. That's on you. Don't come and apologise now, you idiot. You were literally sitting there and watching it on the telly. So public apology you can get in the sea. I don't think there's any point. Season bans. I mean, do they mean season long, as in you can't referee in the Premier League for one season after a mistake?
I presume so. I mean, that's what it says. The officials to receive season bans from officiating in the Premier League and detailed retraining. I think season ban is.
It's like
strong.
what based on what? Like, I mean, it's completely out of whack. Like, players get 3 match bans for going in 2-footed on someone's shin.
Yeah,
like getting a referee mistake wrong, you ban for a season. Like, what are you going to do? Like, what if every ref will make a mistake? So you ban all of those, the top ones. And then you have to bump them up from the Championship to fill the spots. They make mistakes. And before you know it, the bloke who I had refereeing my Sunday League match at the weekend, he's up there at Old Trafford taking charge because all the rest of them are banned.
Yeah,
Silly. I don't think banning them. I mean, what is that? It's for mistakes. You can't do that.
I think banning them for a number of games. I think at the moment I understand that.
But they do. They get demoted, don't they?
They get demoted. But I mean,
to the Championship.
Get demoted to the Championship. I mean, the Championship is still a good level of competition.
It's not the same, is it? It's still a punishment of sorts.
Yeah, I mean, I'd prefer a 1 or 2 match ban like the players.
But all right, put it this way: if you did something wrong at work, and then someone made you go and sit with the blokes at the bottom of the pile,
if I was consistently incompetent at work, I'd be sacked.
Yeah, no, not consistently. If you made a mistake at work, right, and your boss went, right, James, you're a senior in a senior editorial strategic position with this company. And you've worked your way up from an untrained intern, but that cock up you did on the weekend was so bad. So next week, you're going to sit with the interns over there. You can make the teas and the coffees all week. You could do all the donkey work jobs that sort of everyone has to do or whatever that you had to do when you're an intern. You do that for a week. You're telling me that wouldn't be a punishment, or you wouldn't feel a sense of, you wouldn't be going, oh, well, I'm still working for the company, like, oh, Championship's still a good level. It is a punishment, and they do get embarrassed by that or whatever, and they don't like doing it, stepping down a level.
Maybe.
So,
yeah.
But the one thing, the public justification, I think totally fair enough to ask that. And what you said then, it would take. What's the point of a statement that says, "Oh, we acknowledge that we did wrong"? Okay, well, explain exactly what you said, Jonesy. Just it only needs 3 or 4 sentences in that statement. From the people in the media department of the PGMOL. Ben Campbell, the old West Ham head of media, is currently heading up the media department at the PGMOL. So a man who knows his beans. You just need a statement there that says, we acknowledge that there was mistakes made per Law 12, as Will Hughes read out on the We Are West Ham podcast, or publicly accessible. This is the law. Jared Gillett determined it to be a careless act from Jared Bowen, whereby leaving his trailing foot, he feels like he didn't take enough precaution for Mendy's safety and he should have jumped out of the way. Sure, there'll be people still disagreeing and going, well, that's fallacy and blah, blah, blah. But then Gillett needs to take that. But just say that. At least fans know at least where it came from. They could still think it was wrong or whatever. But just say, so people at least have got a bit more of an understanding of why, because fans are just still in the dark. So public justification, I think that's a decent demand. And meet with supporters. Not really sure. What do you think on that?
I think this is important because essentially it's the supporters that are most affected by these decisions. I mean,
I think the owners and investors would probably disagree, but if we miss out in Europe.
I mean, at the same time, it's the fans that are buying the tickets to go and watch those games in Europe that would not be able to go to Europe. It's the fans
money comes from TV revenues, but fair enough.
It's the fans that are, but I mean, the fans aren't seeing that money, are they? They're spending 600-700 in some clubs, even more than that, to try and actually get to go and watch their team. And we saw how expensive it was just to go to a couple of Europa League games last season overseas. If we'd gone all the way to Lyon and a situation like that happened, I'd be livid because I've just spent God knows how much just getting over to Lyon for a day.
Yeah, fine.
Right?
Fine.
So it's not cheap going to watch football these days in the modern era,
Yeah,
regardless
no,
of whether it's home
I
or
agree.
away or abroad.
Yeah. Or
So
your Sky subscription or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, and you spend all that money, and then you end up being cheated out of things like that.
Mm.
And you know, those what was it, 3,000 West Ham fans at Stamford Bridge? Couldn't have been far off that.
No.
And you know, they've just seen West Ham equalise at Stamford Bridge in the 91st minute or whatever it was, right? The absolute scenes in that away
Yeah.
been like up there.
Yeah.
And then for it to be all taken away, that joy, that euphoria of seeing your team score at Stamford Bridge in the 91st minute to nick a point, to be taken away by such an idiotic decision such as that. Fans need justification. They need to be spoken to by these people and really understand what's going on.
So you think a meet with supporters is fair enough?
It's the fans' game, essentially.
Yeah.
And it's
but I don't
ruined.
think it should need it, mate. Frankly,
it should.
A lot of these people must be football fans as well. I don't think they should need a supporters trust chairman or woman to sit in front of them and say.
But that's how bad it's got. It's the fact that we're now sitting here with supporters trusts releasing statements going, you know, we need justification here. Like, you need to tell us exactly what's going on.
Yeah, but I'm saying they shouldn't need to meet with fans for the fans to go, that thing that on the Jared Bowen thing and the Joe Willock thing, when a bloke has been pushed into the goalkeeper, shouldn't need a committee, the supporters trust coalition, to sit there and go, yeah, that's not very good for the game. Us fans don't like that. Just use your eyes, lads, and the ears, and go on Twitter every now and then. It doesn't take too much. But listen, Jonesy, we're getting a bit pushed for time here, I think. The rest of the overall, really good performance from West Ham, I thought.
Yeah.
Did well. Very unfortunate. David Moyes and Declan Rice both come out afterwards. Incensed by the decision. Of course, it dominates the narrative, but a decent performance from West Ham. It looks like we finally remembered how to play football.
Yeah, I think overall it's a good performance. And if you couple that with the Spurs performance a few days earlier, it seems like we're beginning to see the West Ham that we've been so used to seeing under David Moyes over the last 2 years. It's all beginning to fall into place. Slow start. We're a little bit unlucky, obviously, with a couple of results, but the last two games against two top four contenders at the very least, and it showed that we can compete with those teams. And I think we will start climbing the table pretty soon. If the last two performances are anything to go by against Spurs and Chelsea. So yeah, obviously we should have beaten Spurs. Should have got a point at Chelsea. So yeah, I'm far more confident than I was about 7 days ago. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, performance is upturned. Reasons for positivity, certainly. Yeah, I think it's fair. So apologies, we haven't really gone into too much detail on any of the other stuff there. But the Tottenham game deserved to win. Good goal from Souček. I think it was a better team on the night.
What an assist by Antonio, by the way, with that.
Yeah,
his assist was superb.
It was nice.
Very
Hit the
good.
post as well, didn't he? Yeah, he sort of perhaps hey, who knew Will Pugh was correct? That having some centre forward competition might actually make Antonio try a bit harder or look a bit better.
Yep.
Who knew? Like, he's looked really good, hasn't he? Against Tottenham at the post. Just the rest's probably helped him as well, not just putting it all on him.
Yep.
Yeah. Just like, apparently having two strikers at a Premier League club, not so bad after all. Tragic. Anyway, reason for positivity. Robbed at Chelsea. 2 good performances from the Hammers. Onwards and upwards. Stay